Keanu Reeves was walking down a quiet street in the early morning, his cap pulled low to hide his face. He liked these walks. They helped him clear his mind, to breathe like an ordinary man far away from cameras and noise. The sun had not yet risen fully, and the street was empty except for a small bakery opening its shutters and a pair of young children sitting on the cold sidewalk. Keanu noticed them from a distance. A boy and a girl, maybe 11 or 12, sitting close together under an old, thin blanket. They were shivering, their cheeks red from the chill. They had a small box between them, wrapped carefully in a faded cloth. They watched people pass by, their eyes hopeful yet guarded, as if they had learned not to expect too much. Keanu slowed down. Something about them made him stop. He crouched a few steps away, pretending to tie his shoelace so he could observe them without scaring them. He noticed the girl kept glancing at the boy's shoes, which were worn through at the soles. The boy rubbed his sister's hands to keep her warm. They looked like they hadn't eaten properly in days. Taking a breath, Keanu stood up and walked over. The girl flinched as his shadow fell across them. "Hey," he said softly, trying not to frighten them. "Good morning." The boy looked up first, his eyes large and dark. "Good morning, sir," he whispered. His voice was rough, as if unused to speaking to strangers. The girl hugged the box closer to her chest. Keanu knelt down so he was eye level with them. "What's your name?" he asked gently. The boy hesitated. "I'm Theo. This is my sister Leela." Keanu gave them a small smile. "Hi Theo." "Hi Leela. What are you doing out here so early?" Leela clutched the box tighter. "We're trying to sell this, sir. Mama said it's special. We need money for food, and maybe a room for tonight." Her voice broke at the word room single quotes. Keanu single quotes as heart tightened. "Where are your parents, Theo?" "Look down. Mama's gone. Papa, we don't know where Papa is." Keanu could feel the cold seeping through his jacket now. He couldn't imagine how much colder they must be under that thin blanket. He looked at the box. "Can I see what you're selling?" Leela hesitated, then slowly unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a small wooden music box. It was old but beautiful. There was a tiny carved figure of a ballerina inside, the paint faded. Her arms lifted gracefully. Keanu reached out, but stopped himself. "May I?" Leela nodded. Keanu picked up the box with great care. He could feel how precious it was to them. He wound the tiny key at the bottom and lifted the lid. A soft, sweet melody filled the air, dancing above the hum of the waking city. Keanu closed his eyes as the tune played. Memories he hadn't felt in years came rushing back, memories of his own mother's gentle smile, the music she loved, the nights they'd sit together when he was small and she'd hum tunes to help him sleep. When he opened his eyes, he saw that Leela was watching him closely. Theo was trying to read Keanu's face, hoping he'd want to buy it. "How much?" Keanu asked quietly. Theo looked at his sister. She shrugged. "Enough for breakfast," she said, "and maybe socks and bread for tomorrow." Keanu felt a lump in his throat. He looked at the twins, two children who had nothing but still held on to each other and this old box. He knew he couldn't just hand them a wad of cash. People could take advantage of them. He had to do it carefully. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a few bills. "Will this be enough?" Lila's eyes widened. Theo's mouth fell open. "But that's too much, sir. Mama said the box is special." "But," Keanu smiled, "it's special to me too. Thank you for sharing it with me." He paused, then asked, "Where will you sleep tonight?" Theo shrugged. "Maybe under the bridge, or near the bakery. If we're lucky, the baker lets us stay by the warm oven." Keanu's heart sank. He couldn't just walk away. He handed Theo the money, then gently closed the box and gave it back to Leela. "Keep this," he said. Leela stared at him, confused. "But you just bought it." Keanu shook his head. "It's not the box I wanted to buy. It's your breakfast, your socks, your hope. Keep the box. It's your mama's gift to you, and I want you to have it forever." Lila's eyes filled with tears. She hugged the box tight against her chest and leaned into her brother's side. Theo held the money in his shaking hand, looking as if he didn't know what to say. Keanu looked around, thinking fast. "Listen, wait here for me. I'll be back in 20 minutes. I promise, don't move, okay? Theo nodded. Yes, sir. Keanu stood up and walked quickly down the street, his mind racing. He had no idea yet how, but he knew one thing for sure: he would not let these twins spend another night in the cold. He didn't know then that this small act of kindness would change his own life forever too. Keanu Reeves walked quickly down the street, his mind spinning with thoughts of Theo and Leela. The city was waking up now. Cars honked, shops pulled up their shutters. People hurried past without looking twice at the children huddled under the blanket. Keanu felt anger stir inside him. How could so many eyes see so little? He pulled out his phone and made a few calls. The first was to a friend who ran a local shelter for families. The friend promised to find a warm place for the twins to stay that night, but it would take a few hours to arrange. Keanu thanked him and promised to cover any cost. Next, he ducked into a small cafe and bought hot chocolates, a bag full of fresh pastries, and sandwiches. He told the barista about the twins, and the young woman behind the counter added extra cookies without charging him. Tell them Merry Christmas, she whispered, even though it was months away. When Keanu returned to the spot, he feared for a moment that they might have left. His heart eased when he saw Theo and Leela exactly where he'd left them. They looked up, eyes wide. As he crouched down and handed them the warm drinks, "Drink up," Keanu said, smiling. "It'll warm you from the inside." Leela cupped the cup with both hands, letting the steam touch her cold cheeks. Theo took a small sip, then nudged his sister to drink more. They ate the sandwiches slowly, as if afraid the food might disappear. "Why? Are you helping us, sir?" Theo asked suddenly, his eyes narrowed with honest confusion. "People don't usually stop. They say mean things sometimes. They say we should go away." Keanu's chest tightened. "When I was your age," he said, choosing his words carefully, "I knew what it felt like to have very little. My mom worked so hard, but we still struggled. I know how scary it is to feel alone. You just shouldn't feel that way. No one should." Leela looked at him shyly. "Were you ever hungry like us?" Keanu nodded. "Yes, I didn't always know when the next meal would come, but I had my mom, and you have each other. That means you're already stronger than you think." Theo looked at his sister, then back at Keanu. "What will happen to us now?" Keanu leaned closer. "I have a friend who runs a safe place for kids and families. Tonight you'll sleep in warm beds, with pillows and blankets. No cold street, no bridge. Tomorrow we'll see what more we can do. Is that okay?" Lila's eyes lit up, but then she looked down at her old shoes. "What if they don't want us? We're dirty. Mama always said we had to be clean to be welcome." Keanu reached out and gently lifted her chin. "You're welcome with me. You don't need to worry about that anymore." The twins sat quietly, finishing their food. Keanu noticed Theo's hands were trembling, not just from the cold, but maybe from fear of hoping too much. Just then, an older man stepped out of the bakery behind them. He was tall and looked stern at first glance, but his eyes softened when he saw the twins. "These have been out here all night?" the baker asked Keanu. Keanu nodded. "Yes. They said sometimes you let them sit by the oven." The baker sighed and rubbed his hands on his apron. "They're good kids, never cause trouble. They just sit there and share one roll between them." He looked at Keanu closely. "Are you gonna help them for real?" Keanu met his gaze. "Yes, they won't be out here tonight." The baker looked relieved. "Good. This world's too cold for kids like them." He handed Keanu a small paper bag. "Here, fresh rolls for later. No charge." Keanu thanked him and turned back to the twins. "How about we go get you some new socks and warm clothes? Would you like that?" Theo's eyes widened. "New socks and shoes," Keanu added, "and coats, and maybe a toy or two. It's gonna be a busy morning." For the first time, a small smile broke through Theo's guarded face. Leela held onto the music box, her thumb gently brushing the worn wood as if it was her only treasure in the world. "Can we take Mama's box with us?" she asked softly. Keanu touched her shoulder. "Always. Your Mama's memory stays with you wherever you go." They stood up together. Keanu offered each of them a hand. Theo took his right hand, Leela his left. Their little fingers were cold but strong. As they walked down the street toward the shops, people turned to look. a famous actor holding hands with two homeless children. Some recognized him, some took photos. Keanu didn't care. He didn't let go. Inside, he knew this was just the beginning. What he didn't know yet was that the old music box held secrets. Even the twins didn't understand secrets that would soon bring even more tears, hope, and a chance for a new family they never imagined they'd have. Keanu Reeves held the twins' small hands as they walked down the busy street. Theo looked around nervously, pulling his torn jacket tighter. Leela stayed close to Keanu's side, her music box tucked under her arm like a shield. People glanced at them as they passed, some curious, some whispering. When they recognized Keanu, he ignored them. The only thing that mattered now was Theo and Leela. They stopped at a small clothing store that had just opened its doors for the morning. Keanu pushed the door open, and the warm air inside wrapped around them like a hug. The twins hesitated at the entrance, looking at the clean shelves and neat racks as if they didn't belong there. Keanu knelt down to their level. "You're with me. You belong here. Understand?" Theo nodded slowly. Leela squeezed his hand. Together they stepped inside. A kind lady behind the counter looked up in surprise when she saw Keanu. She smiled politely, but her eyes widened when she saw Theo's broken shoes and Lila's thin dress. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked. Keanu nodded. "Yes, please. We need warm clothes for these two. Coats, sweaters, socks, good shoes. Can you help us find the right sizes?" The woman's eyes softened. "Of course. Come this way, kids." She knelt and spoke directly to them. "What colors do you like? Warm colors, bright colors?" Leela looked down shyly. "Pink," she whispered. Theo shrugged. "Blue, I guess." While the lady gathered clothes, Keanu walked with the twins around the store. He picked up a pair of sturdy boots for Theo and warm winter boots for Leela. They found thick scarves, hats with soft pom-poms, and gloves lined with fleece. Every time the lady showed them something, the twins looked at Keanu as if asking permission. Every time, he smiled and nodded. In the fitting room, Leela giggled. For the first time, when she tried on a coat with a fluffy hood, Theo spun around in his new jeans, looking at himself in the mirror as if he didn't recognize the boy staring back. When they were ready to check out, Keanu noticed Theo staring at a small rack of backpacks by the counter. They were bright and new, with zippers that actually worked. "You want one?" Keanu asked. Theo looked away. "It's okay. We don't go to school anymore." Keanu's heart sank. "Do you want to go back to school?" Theo shrugged, but his eyes betrayed the answer he was too shy to say. "We'll see what we can do," Keanu said softly. One step at a time, the lady rang up the clothes and handed Keanu the bags. She slipped a small box of chocolate treats inside the twins' bag. "For later," she whispered to Leela, who beamed at her. They stepped out of the shop, the twins wrapped in their new coats, their old blanket folded under Theo's arm like a memory they were trying to leave behind. "Where are we going now?" Theo asked, his voice brighter than before. "To a friend's place," Keanu said. "It's warm and safe. You'll meet other kids there too." They walked to a small shelter on the edge of the city. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and run by people who cared. When they arrived, a kind woman named Margaret greeted them at the door. "Keanu, you must be the reason we got your call this morning," Margaret said, pulling him into a quick hug. Then she knelt down in front of the twins. "And you must be Theo and Leela. We've made your beds already. Come, let's get you settled." The twins held onto Keanu's hands tightly. "Are you coming too?" Leela asked. Keanu smiled. "I'll stay for a bit. I'll come back to visit, I promise." Inside the shelter, the twins saw things they hadn't seen in a long time: soft pillows, books, toys, and other kids laughing and playing. Margaret led them to a small room with two beds, side by side. The beds had warm quilts and stuffed animals waiting on the pillows. Leela placed her music box on the table between the beds, like it was the most precious thing she owned. She touched the top gently, then turned to Keanu. "Thank you," she whispered. Theo looked up at Keanu, trying to find the right words. In the end, he just wrapped his thin arms around Keanu's waist and hugged him tight. Keanu held him back, feeling the boy's ribs under his coat. Margaret stepped closer. "We'll keep them safe, don't worry." And Keanu, thank you for trusting us." Keanu gave her a small smile, but inside, he felt something tugging at his heart. He knew he couldn't just walk away from these kids. They had no one else. As he turned to leave, he glanced back at the music box. It was closed, the tiny ballerina hidden inside, waiting to dance again. What he didn't know yet was that inside that old box was a faded note, slipped under the velvet lining, a note that would reveal something about the twins' past that even they didn't know. That secret would soon pull Keanu deeper into their lives than he ever imagined. That night, Keanu couldn't sleep. He lay on his couch, the city lights flickering through his window, the sound of the twins' voices echoing in his mind. He thought about Lila's shy smile and Theo's wide eyes. He wondered how many nights they'd spent on cold concrete, holding each other under that thin blanket. He kept picturing the music box too. Its soft tune had stirred something deep inside him, something old and tender that he hadn't felt in years. He sat up and stared at the ceiling. Something about that box nagged at him, like a memory just out of reach. The next morning, Keanu woke up early and drove back to the shelter. He found Margaret sitting at her desk, sorting through a box of donated toys. "How did they sleep?" Keanu asked without saying hello first. Margaret smiled, like two little angels. "They ate a full dinner, too. Lila even helped set the table. They're sweet kids, Keanu. They don't complain about anything." Keanu nodded, his hands in his pockets. "Can I see them?" Margaret led him to the small common room. Theo and Lila were sitting on the floor, playing a board game with two other kids. They looked so different already, clean, warm, their hair brushed. When they saw Keanu, they jumped up and ran to him. "You came back," Lila said, hugging him around the waist. "I promised, didn't I?" Keanu said, ruffling Theo's hair. They sat together for a while. Theo told him about the warm beds, the hot dinner, the other kids who had shared their toys. Lila showed him a small stuffed bunny she had named Hope. After a while, Keanu asked carefully, "Can I see the music box again?" Lila nodded eagerly. She ran to the small nightstand by her bed and brought it over, holding it like a treasure. Keanu sat on the edge of the bed and opened the box slowly. The soft tune filled the room. He turned it around in his hands, noticing scratches he hadn't seen before. Under the velvet lining, he felt something odd, like a piece of paper hidden beneath. "Lila, did you know there's something inside here?" Keanu asked. Lila shook her head. "Mama never told us." Double quotes with gentle fingers. Keanu lifted the velvet lining. Tucked inside was a tiny, folded piece of paper. The edges were yellow and soft from age. His heart beat faster as he unfolded it. There, in careful handwriting, were words that made his breath catch. "If you find this, know that Theo and Lila are my light. Please find my brother. He will keep them safe. His name is Matthew." Keanu read it twice to make sure he understood. He looked up at the twins. "Did your mama ever talk about Matthew?" Theo and Lila looked at each other, confused. "Mama used to say she had a brother when she was young," Theo said. "But we never met him." Keanu felt a strange chill run through him. "Do you know his last name?" The twins shrugged. "Same as ours," Lila said. Keanu folded the note and put it safely in his pocket. "Okay, I'm going to try to find him. Maybe he can help you too." Lila looked worried. "But will we have to leave here?" Keanu squeezed her hand. "Nothing bad will happen, I promise. I just want to find more family for you. You deserve that." Margaret watched all this quietly. When Keanu stood up, she pulled him aside. "Are you sure you want to get involved this deep? Keanu, you've already done so much." Keanu looked at her, his eyes steady. "These kids need someone to stand up for them. I'm not going to stop now." He spent the next few days searching. He called lawyers, asked friends, and checked records. He visited the street where the twins used to live, talking to old neighbors. He found out that their mother had fallen sick after losing her husband and had no money left. She'd once talked about her brother Matthew, but no one knew where he was now. Every night, Keanu returned to the shelter. He brought books and small treats, and the twins' faces always lit up when they saw him. He read bedtime stories, brushed Lila's hair, and talked to Theo about going back to school one day. One night, after tucking them in, Keanu sat in his car staring at the note. He didn't know yet where this would lead him, but deep down he felt like finding Matthew was the key to giving these kids the family they deserved. What Keanu didn't realize was that Matthew had been looking for his sister for years too. And when he found out about Theo and Leela, everything would change, in a way none of them could ever have imagined. Keanu Reeves sat in his car late at night, the city lights blurred by rain on the windshield. The note from the music box lay on the seat beside him, its worn paper edges lit by the soft glow of the street lamps. He felt a strange weight in his chest. He had faced cameras, crowds, and critics his whole life, but the search for Matthew made him feel small, like he was a child again, wishing someone would find him when he was lost. The next morning, Keanu called an old friend who worked for a private investigator. They met at a quiet diner, where Keanu showed him the note. The investigator, a man named Paul, read it carefully, then looked at Keanu with a thoughtful frown. "You know, this is going to take time," Paul said, sipping his coffee. "Matthew could be anywhere. You're sure you want to keep going?" With this, Keanu nodded. "I've seen those kids' eyes, Paul. They need family. I won't stop until I find him." Paul agreed to help. Days turned into weeks as they chased old addresses, birth records, and hospital files. Every evening, Keanu went back to the shelter. Each time he stepped through the door, Theo and Lila's faces would light up like lanterns in the dark. He would sit with them during dinner, helping Theo with small sums and reading bedtime stories to Lila. He bought them books and puzzles, and once he surprised them with a small, battered guitar from a thrift shop. "I remember you said your mama liked music," Keanu told Theo. "Maybe you'll play one day." Theo touched the guitar gently, like it might break in his hands. Lila hugged her brother tight. One evening, Margaret pulled Keanu aside as he was leaving. "They trust you more than anyone else," she said softly. "They talk about you all day. They're asking if you'll always come back." Keanu felt a lump in his throat. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "I promise." Late one night, Paul called. Keanu answered on the first ring. "I think I found him," Paul said. "Matthew, your kid's uncle. He's about an hour outside the city, in a small town. He's been working at a music repair shop. I spoke to the shop owner. He said Matthew always asks about a sister named Claire. She's the twins' mother, right?" Keanu's heart slammed in his chest. "Yes, that's her name." Paul paused. "You want me to reach out first?" Keanu shook his head, even though Paul couldn't see it. "No, I'll go. I want to see his face when he hears about them." The next morning, Keanu woke up before dawn. He grabbed a small bag with the music box, the note, and a photo of Theo and Leela he'd taken with his old Polaroid camera. He drove through empty roads and early morning fog, thinking about the look on Lila's face when she would know she had an uncle who wanted her. When he arrived at the small town, he found the music shop tucked between a laundromat and an old bookstore. The sign above the door said Matthew's Music Repairs. Keanu took a deep breath and stepped inside. The shop was warm and smelled like old wood and metal polish. Guitars hung on the walls, and violins rested in open cases. Behind the counter stood a man with kind eyes and hair touched with gray at the temples. He wore a work apron and was gently repairing a broken guitar string. Keanu stepped closer. "Excuse me, Matthew." The man looked up, startled. "Yes?" Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded note. He placed it on the counter, hands trembling slightly. I think we need to talk about Claire, your sister." Matthew's eyes widened. He dropped the guitar pick from his fingers, his whole body tensing. "What did you say?" he whispered. Keanu opened the music box and let the familiar tune play. The tiny ballerina turned slowly under the shop lights. Matthew stared at it, his eyes filling with tears. "That was Claire's. I carved that for her when we were kids." Matthew choked out. "Where did you get this?" Keanu leaned in, his voice gentle. "From her children, Theo and Leela. They've been alone since she passed. She hid this note for them. She wanted them to find you." Matthew's hands shook as he reached for the music box. His tears dripped onto the counter. "Are they okay?" he asked, his voice raw. "Where are they?" Keanu smiled through the tightness in his chest. "They're safe. They're waiting. And they still have this. They've been carrying you in their hearts, even when they didn't know you yet. Matthew broke down, his shoulders shaking as years of guilt and longing poured out. When he finally looked up, his eyes were fierce with determination. Take me to them, please. I want to see them. They're my family. They're all I have left of Claire. Keanu closed the music box and placed it in Matthew's hands. Come with me. Let's bring them home. Together, they stepped out into the morning sun. Two strangers tied together by an old tune and a promise hidden inside a music box. A promise that family would always find its way back home. What none of them knew was that this reunion would bring new challenges, unexpected choices, and a moment that would test Keanu's own heart in ways he never imagined. Keanu Reeves drove back to the city with Matthew sitting beside him. The music box rested safely on Matthew's lap, as if it were a fragile piece of his sister's spirit that he couldn't bear to lose again. The morning sun lit up the road ahead, but Matthew's eyes were lost in the past flashes of childhood, the sister he'd loved and lost, and the niece and nephew he hadn't even known he had. Keanu watched him out of the corner of his eye. He saw the way Matthew's hands trembled when he held the box, how his lips moved as if he were whispering apologies to Claire for not finding her in time. You okay? Keanu asked softly, his voice barely cutting through the hum of the tires. On the road. Matthew nodded, then shook his head. I don't know what I'll say to them. I don't want to scare them. Just be honest, Keanu said. They're good kids. They've got big hearts. They'll feel it. When they arrived at the shelter, Keanu paused before they went in. He turned to Matthew and put a hand on his shoulder. Whatever happens, they know now they're not alone anymore. That's what matters inside. Margaret greeted them with her usual warmth. She looked at Matthew with kind curiosity, but asked no questions. She knew when something sacred was about to happen. She led them down the hall to where Theo and Leela were coloring at a small table with other kids. When the twins saw Keanu, they jumped up immediately. You're back, Theo said, his grin wide. Leela ran up and hugged him tight. Burying her face in his coat. Keanu knelt down, his arms around them. I told you I'd come back, didn't I? When they looked up, they saw Matthew standing behind him, holding the music box. Matthew took a small step forward, his eyes wet, his voice shaking. Hi, Theo. Hi, Leela. I'm your Uncle Matthew. Theo's smile faded as he looked from Keanu to Matthew and back. Leela clutched her brother's hand. Mama said you went away, Theo said quietly. Matthew nodded, his eyes never leaving theirs. I did. I looked for her, but I was too late. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for her, or for you. But I'm here now, if you'll have me. Silence filled the room like a held breath. Then Leela stepped forward and placed her tiny hand in Matthew's. Her fingers brushed the old music box. You carved this? She asked. Matthew nodded. When your mama was little, she loved to dance. Just like you. Leela's eyes filled with tears. Can we stay with you? Matthew sank to his knees. If you want me, I'd be so happy to be your family. I've got a small house, not much, but there's room for both of you. Warm beds, a backyard with flowers your mama planted when we were kids. I want you to come home. Theo looked at Keanu. Will you come too? Keanu felt a lump in his throat. I'll visit. I'll always be here for you. You have Matthew now. You have each other. You'll never be alone again. Theo threw his arms around Matthew's neck, hugging him tight. Leela did the same. The music box pressed between them like a heartbeat connecting past and present. A few weeks later, Keanu helped Matthew pack up the twins' few things and drive them to their new home. The house was small but filled with sunlight and the smell of fresh bread. Matthew had placed family photos on the mantel and put the twins' beds side by side in a room filled with new blankets and books. That evening, as they settled in, Theo pulled out the guitar Keanu had given him. He strummed the strings clumsily, and Leela hummed along to the old tune from the music box. Matthew sat in a chair by the window, tears sliding down his cheeks as he listened. Keanu sat on the porch, staring at the stars. He felt peace in his chest, not the loud, bright peace that came from applause or lights, but a quiet one that warmed him deep inside, knowing he had helped two children find a home. Knowing he had helped a broken family mend its seams. As he got up to leave, Leela ran outside, barefoot on the porch. She handed him the music box, but he shook his head. "Keep it," Keanu whispered. "It's your mama's. It's your light." Leela threw her arms around him one last time. "Thank you for seeing us." Keanu hugged her back, holding her tight. "Thank you for letting me." When he drove away that night, he didn't feel like a movie star. He felt like a man who'd been given a gift, the chance to see hope bloom where it was almost lost, the chance to remind to little souls that they were worth the world. And in that small house on the edge of the city, with a music box singing softly in the dark, Theo and Leela finally fell asleep, not as homeless twins on a street corner, but as children who belonged, wrapped in the warmth of family and the echo of a mother's love that would never fade.